I, male, 38, think my wife, female, 36, is having an affair with our pregnant neighbor's husband, male, 40, and now she's trying to get me to be friends with him. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. I've been lurking on this sub for years, but never thought I'd be posting here myself. So I have been married to my wife, female, 36, let's call her Summer, for 12 years. We met at this company mixer back when we were in our mid-20s. I was just standing in the corner being all awkward, which is basically my default setting, lol, with some drink I didn't even like, and she just came up and started talking to me, and we just clicked. I still remember thinking, why would someone like her be interested in someone like me? But whatever. It happened. We moved to our current neighborhood about 5 years ago. It's nice, good schools, even though we don't have kids, but we were thinking about it at one point. Mostly friendly people. I work from home as a software developer. Been doing that since before COVID made it cool, haha. And Summer has this marketing job that's gotten really demanding lately. Like, really demanding, with late nights and weekend emergencies and stuff. At least that's what I thought was happening. I should probably mention, we've been renovating our house for what feels like forever, and it's been draining our savings like crazy. The contractor keeps finding new problems every week, and this bathroom remodel alone is gonna bankrupt us. We're not broke or anything, but definitely not as comfortable as we used to be. We always talked about having kids, but when Summer's career started taking off, we decided to wait. I was fine with that. I mean, kids are a huge commitment, and we wanted to be ready. Now I'm wondering if that was just her way of keeping her options open, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Honestly, maybe it's good we don't have kids with what's happening now. So about 8 months ago, this couple moved in next door. Brett, male, 40, and his wife Bethany, female, 32. Bethany was already like 5 months pregnant when they moved in. She's due literally any day now. She's a nurse at the hospital nearby and works a lot of night shifts. Brett is this super outgoing real estate agent type. You know the kind. Perfect hair, always dressed nice, that fake smile. He immediately became friends with like everyone in the neighborhood. I always felt kind of, uncomfortable around Brett, but I couldn't really explain why. He never did anything specific. He was always friendly and everything. I just chalked it up to me being socially awkward, which I definitely am compared to him. I know this sounds like I'm trying to justify my suspicions after the fact, but I swear I always had this weird feeling about him. Like my gut was trying to warn me or something. Everything was normal until about 3 to 4 months ago. Summer started acting different, working late a lot, being super protective of her phone, which she never was before. Like she used to just leave it on the counter or whatever and never cared if I used it. Now, it's always with her. Even takes it to the bathroom. And she changed passwords on accounts we used to share, Netflix, Amazon, even our joint bank app, which was weird. And our sex life basically disappeared. There was always some excuse. Headache, tired from work, period, for like 2 weeks straight, whatever. I've always been good at reading Summer, or so I thought. I figured she was just stressed about work. Her company has been going through some restructuring, and she's been putting in extra hours trying to prove herself. At least that's what she told me. God, I feel so stupid now looking back at how obvious it all was. The first thing that made me actually suspicious happened about a month ago. Summer was in the shower, and I grabbed her iPad to look up a recipe for dinner. I know her passcode because she never cared if I used it before. A text notification popped up from Brett saying, "I can't stop thinking about yesterday." I just froze. I stared at it for like 30 seconds trying to come up with some innocent explanation. I mean, maybe they were working on some neighborhood committee thing I didn't know about. They weren't. Maybe he was talking about some conversation they had. He wasn't. I hesitated, but then opened the message thread. My hands were literally shaking. The messages went back weeks. They referenced meeting up while he's working, that's me, and while she's at the hospital, that's Bethany. There were some messages that were clearly deleted because the conversation didn't make sense in places. Then I found recently deleted photos. Brett, in our house. Our fucking house. While I was at work, I can't even describe how I felt seeing those. They were in our living room, on our couch. I think I almost threw up right there. I heard the shower turn off and I panicked. I closed everything and put the iPad back where I found it. I felt sick. Summer came out and asked if I found the recipe I wanted. I said yeah, and showed her some random recipe I had pulled up. I could barely look at her. She stared at my face for what felt like forever, like she was checking if I knew something. I tried so hard to act normal, but I don't know if I pulled it off. Then she left for work at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. Sure, she seemed relieved when she left, like she dodged a bullet. After that, I started paying more attention. I checked our phone records. We still share a phone plan. Tons of calls between them. Always during times when I was working or when Bethany would be at the hospital on night shift. Like literally dozens of calls. Some just a minute long, probably can you talk calls, and others for like an hour plus. Oh, and get this. Our neighbor across the street mentioned casually seeing Summer's car parked a few blocks away during the day sometimes. At first, I thought maybe she was visiting a friend or something. Then it hit me. She was hiding her car so it wouldn't be seen at Brett's house while his pregnant wife was at work. Who does that? His wife is literally pregnant with their first child, and they're sneaking around behind our backs. The most suspicious thing happened last week. We were having dinner, and out of nowhere, Summer suggests that I should make an effort to become friends with Brett. She said we have a lot in common. We don't. Like literally nothing besides being male and having a pulse. And it would be good for the neighborhood if we all became closer friends. I asked her why she suddenly cared about this, and she claimed she felt bad that the neighbors might think I'm antisocial. This is a woman who has never cared what neighbors think about anything. Ever. We once had a neighbor complain about our garbage cans being left out too long, and she told them to mind their own business. But suddenly she's concerned about neighborhood harmony. Sure, whatever. It was so obvious what she was doing. She wanted to normalize Brett being around so they could have more opportunities to be together without raising suspicion. I felt sick again. I haven't confronted her yet. I know I should, but I want concrete evidence first. I installed a security camera in our home office that has a view of the living room. I told Summer it was because there had been package thefts in the neighborhood. There haven't been any that I know of. I totally made that up. I'm going to pretend to go along with her suggestion about befriending Brett. I'll act like I have no idea what's going on, but I'm gonna catch them both in their lies. I never thought I'd be in this position. Summer was supposed to be the one person I could trust completely. 12 years together, and this is what it comes to. All those anniversaries and birthdays and Christmases and trips and everything just meant nothing, I guess. I don't even know what I'm asking for here. Advice, support. Has anyone dealt with something like this? Am I overreacting? I don't think I am, but I'm so confused right now. Now for the first update. So a lot has happened since my last post. First of all, thank you to everyone who commented. I was seriously overwhelmed by the response. I read every comment even if I couldn't reply to all of them. Sorry this update took a few days. I've been busy, and honestly not in a good way. Where do I even start? I guess with implementing my plan to gather evidence while pretending to go along with Summer's suggestion about befriending Brett. It's been fucking exhausting pretending everything is normal when I feel like I'm dying inside. Anyway, after my last post, I started checking the security camera footage more carefully. And sure enough, there was Brett coming into our home multiple times when I was at the gym or running errands. Like clockwork, always 10 to 15 minutes after I left. He'd arrive, looking around to make sure no one saw him, then Summer would let him in. Sometimes they'd leave together in his car. Other times, well, you can guess. I've found myself checking Summer's location like 10 times a day. I've been going through hours of security footage. I've turned into someone I don't even recognize. And the worst part? Summer's sudden interest in my schedule that I thought meant she was trying to be more involved in my life. Yeah, she was mapping my routine so she'd know when I'd be gone. I feel so fucking stupid. I decided I needed more concrete evidence, so I reached out to this guy I knew in college who's now a private investigator. He owed me a favor after I helped him build a website for his business a couple years ago. I'm not proud of hiring someone to spy on my wife, but what choice did I have? She was already lying about everything else. The PI got photos of them meeting at this hotel about 20 minutes from our house, and at Brett's house when Bethany was working. The photos made me physically sick, like I literally threw up after seeing them. It's one thing to suspect something is happening, and another to see it happening, you know? Then 3 days ago, I got lucky, if you can call it that. Summer was in the shower and her phone was just sitting there on the kitchen counter, unlocked. I've never been the type to snoop through someone's phone, but at this point, yeah, I had zero guilt. I picked it up and saw Brett was at the top of her recent messages. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. The messages were explicit, detailed. They talked about their last meeting and how they needed to be more careful because one of the neighbors almost saw Brett's car parked near our house. Brett asked if she'd made any progress getting me to befriend him. Summer said I seemed receptive to the idea, and Brett suggested that being friends would make it easier for them to explain spending time together. Then Summer wrote something that made me want to put my fist through a wall. She said I was too trusting to suspect anything. I heard the shower turning off and had to quickly put the phone back and move to another room. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I just sat on the couch staring at nothing for like 20 minutes trying to process what I'd read. After that, Summer got more insistent about the whole friendship thing. She suggested we invite Brett and Bethany over for dinner. I agreed, but intentionally scheduled it for tonight, when I knew Bethany would be working a night shift at the hospital. Summer didn't know I knew Bethany's schedule. I've been paying attention to everything lately. I spent yesterday compiling all the evidence, security footage, text messages, the PI photos, into a presentation I could access on our TV. I had a moment where I wondered if confronting them together was too dramatic, but then I remembered those texts. Too trusting to suspect anything. Fuck that. I wanted to see their faces when they realized they were caught. Last night, Summer and I talked about Brett coming over. I told her I invited him to watch the game and have drinks. She asked if Bethany was coming too, and I mentioned she had a night shift. Summer tried to make an excuse to leave, saying she had plans with friends, but I insisted she stay. She reluctantly agreed but said she might leave early to meet friends. The second we were done talking, she was texting someone. 3 guesses who. This morning, I emailed Bethany. I sent her selected evidence time to arrive during her break at the hospital tonight. I went back and forth about whether to involve her, but in the end, I decided she deserved to know the truth before the baby arrives. I've spent all day setting everything up, making sure all the evidence is ready to go. I feel weirdly calm now that I know the confrontation is finally happening. Brett just arrived 10 minutes ago. I'm typing this quickly in the bathroom. Summer had been planning to make some excuse to leave, but looked shocked when I actually expected her to stay. The 3 of us are now in the living room making the most awkward small talk you can imagine. Brett brought over a bottle of bourbon, the exact brand I mentioned liking at a neighborhood barbecue months ago. They keep exchanging these nervous glances when they think I'm not looking. There's a thunderstorm starting outside. I'm about to go back out there and suggest we all sit down because I have something interesting to show them on the TV. Wish me luck. I'll update again after everything goes down. Edit. A lot of people are asking if I'm safe and if I'm worried about Brett getting violent. I don't think he will. He's too concerned with appearances. If anything, I think he'll try to blame everything on Summer and save his own ass. For those saying I'm being too dramatic and should just file for divorce quietly, maybe you're right. But after weeks of being lied to and made a fool of, I want them to face what they've done. I want to see their reactions when they realize they're caught. I know that might make me petty, but honestly, I don't care anymore. To answer the questions about why I didn't just kick Summer out already, I wanted undeniable proof that they couldn't explain away. I didn't want to give them the chance to make me feel crazy for suspecting something. I needed them to know they couldn't talk their way out of this. Now for the second update. A bunch of you asked for an update after my last post where I left off saying I was about to confront Summer and Brett. When I last posted, I was literally hiding in the bathroom typing, while Brett and Summer were waiting in the living room. I remember staring at myself in the mirror for like a solid minute before I went back out there, just trying to get my shit together. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely unlock my phone. I kept thinking, is this actually happening? Like, was I really about to blow up my entire life? So I went back out to the living room where they were sitting awkwardly making small talk about the weather. Brett had brought over this really expensive bourbon, the exact brand I mentioned liking at some neighborhood thing months ago. That detail still pisses me off for some reason. Like he was trying to be my buddy while screwing my wife behind my back. Summer kept glancing at her phone and making these obvious, "I need to leave soon" hints. Brett was being overly friendly, asking about work and stuff. The whole thing felt so fake. I was sitting there thinking, do they really think I'm this stupid? I finally suggested we all sit down because I had something interesting to show them on the TV. They looked at each other in a way that confirmed everything. Even before I showed them anything, that look told me all I needed to know. Brett joked about hoping it wasn't vacation photos, and I forced myself to laugh while thinking he wouldn't be laughing soon. I clicked the remote and a folder appeared on the screen titled The Affair. Not subtle, I know, but I wasn't really going for subtlety at this point. The look on Summer's face, I'll never forget it. She literally gasped and grabbed the couch cushion like she was about to fall over. Brett's fake smile just froze on his face. Brett tried to act casual and asked what this was about, but his voice cracked. I didn't answer and just hit play on the first video clip from my security camera. It showed Brett and Summer kissing in our living room, on the same couch they were currently sitting on. Summer immediately started crying and tried to tell me she could explain. Brett claimed it wasn't what it looked like, which is such a cliche thing to say when caught cheating. I told him it looked exactly like he was kissing my wife in my house when they thought I wasn't home. I was weirdly calm, probably from shock. I switched to the text messages I'd found where they discussed their relationship and made fun of how clueless I was. I felt sick seeing those messages again. Summer had told Brett I was too trusting to suspect anything, and they both laughed about it. Who does that after 12 years together? Brett got angry when he saw the texts and started yelling about me invading their privacy. The irony of him saying that after invading my marriage and home was ridiculous. Summer was crying hard, begging me to turn it off and talk privately. I asked how long the affair had been going on. They both just looked at each other, not answering. I said it had been at least 2 months according to my evidence, unless it had been longer. Brett's phone buzzed then. When he checked it, his face went white. He asked if I'd talked to Bethany. I told him I'd emailed her some selected highlights earlier that day because she deserved to know before her baby arrived. Brett completely lost it. He jumped up and started cursing at both of us, including Summer. He blamed her for being careless. The look on Summer's face almost made me feel bad for her. Almost. I told Brett to get out of my house immediately. He grabbed his jacket and stormed out to deal with Bethany. The door slammed so hard a picture fell off the wall. Then it was just me and Summer. She broke down completely, hyperventilating, mascara everywhere, couldn't form sentences. When she could finally talk, she blamed everything on Brett. He pursued her aggressively. She felt neglected because I work so much. I work normal hours from home. Brett convinced her I'd never find out. It was all excuses with no responsibility. I sat there watching her cry, feeling everything and nothing at the same time. Part of me still loved her and hated seeing her upset. But I kept thinking about those texts where she laughed about me being oblivious. I told her she needed to leave that night because I needed space to think. She seemed shocked and asked where she was supposed to go. I said I didn't know and didn't care right then and suggested she call a friend. She started calling people right in front of me, and that's when things got even more messed up. She kept telling people that she knew she'd told them about Brett, but now I'd found out and she needed a place to stay. She had told her friends about the affair. Multiple friends knew, and none of them thought to tell me I was being cheated on. With each call, I discovered another person who had known what was happening behind my back. People we'd had dinner with. People who smiled to my face while knowing. The really messed up part, none of them would let her stay. They all had excuses. Kids were sick, house being painted, mother-in-law visiting, whatever. Summer got more desperate with each call. Apparently affairs are fun to gossip about, but nobody wants the fallout on their doorstep. She finally called her sister, who lives about an hour away. I couldn't hear what her sister said, but from Summer's reaction, it wasn't supportive. Summer was literally begging by the end of the call. She finally left around 10 p.m., claiming she was going to her sister's. I took a sleeping pill and turned off my phone. I just couldn't deal with anything else that night. When I woke up the next morning, my phone showed 35 missed calls. From Summer, Brett, Bethany, Summer's sister, and numbers I didn't even recognize. What happened while I was asleep? The voicemails told the whole story. Summer's sister refused to let her stay because she always thought you were too good for me anyway. Her sister always has been pretty cool. Summer was sleeping in her car in a Walmart parking lot because she had nowhere to go. Brett was threatening me and then begging me to tell Bethany it was all a misunderstanding. Bethany texted thanking me for telling her the truth. She had suspected something but was afraid to admit it because of the baby. Another voicemail from Bethany described how she threw all Brett's clothes on the front lawn while the neighbors watched. There were about 15 more calls from Summer throughout the night, each more desperate than the last. The final one came at 5:45 a.m. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her, asking if she could please come home because she had nowhere else to go and had spent the night in her car. I looked out my window and saw Bethany's parents' car in their driveway. Several neighbors were outside pretending to get their mail or water plants, but obviously just trying to see the drama. My phone kept buzzing with texts from neighbors asking if I was okay, which meant everyone knew what had happened. I texted Summer and suggested meeting at a coffee shop to talk. As messed up as everything was, I didn't like the idea of her sleeping in her car. When I saw her at the coffee shop, she looked terrible. Her eyes were so puffy from crying, I could barely see her pupils. She started apologizing immediately. During our conversation, she revealed that Brett had told her his marriage was basically over already and that he was planning to leave Bethany after the baby was born. The whole "you should be friends with Brett" thing had been his idea to reduce suspicion. I set some boundaries. She could stay in our guest room temporarily while looking for an apartment, but I was contacting a divorce attorney. She cried again, but didn't argue. I think she knew there was no saving our marriage at that point. The fallout has been huge. Brett is staying at a hotel, and his real estate office asked him to work remotely after the scandal went public. Bethany's parents have moved in with her to help prepare for single motherhood. Several neighbors have organized a meal train for her. Bethany and I have developed a kind of friendship through all this. We text almost daily, checking in on each other. We're both helping each other through our respective situations. There's nothing romantic about it. We're just two people who got screwed over by the same people. Summer found an apartment and is moving out this weekend. I'm focusing on therapy and rebuilding friendships that I neglected during my marriage. I've started going to the gym more and reconnected with some old friends who've been amazing support. The pain is still fresh, but honestly, I feel a weird sense of relief too. No more wondering if I'm crazy for being suspicious. No more checking security cameras and phone records. I can just focus on healing and moving forward. So that's where things stand now. Not sure if I'll post another update, but thanks to everyone who's followed along and offered advice. This community has been surprisingly helpful during the worst period of my life. Edit. A lot of people are asking if I'm going to help Bethany with the baby. We're just friends, people. She has her parents and actual friends for that. I'm not looking to jump from one relationship disaster into another situation, especially with a newborn involved. Yes, we're both getting tested for STDs. That was like the first thing we both did after finding out. Results not back yet, but fingers crossed. Several people have asked about legal advice. Yes, I'm working with a lawyer. The house is in both our names, but I was the primary contributor to the down payment. It was mostly inheritance money from my grandparents. My lawyer thinks I have a good case for keeping the house.